If you want to build a new life, you have to kill the one that's been holding you back. Let me say it again. Kill your old self. Not in theory, not tomorrow, right now. Because the version of you that got you here is not the one who will take you there. The overthinker, the doubter, the procrastinator, the one who talks more than executes. That person, that's your enemy. And they're not going to walk away quietly. They're going to fight like hell to survive. But you're not here to play nice. You're here to dominate. Let me ask you something. Are you sick of playing small? Tired of watching opportunities pass you by because you're still clinging to the identity of someone who's not ready? That version of you is a lie. It's a glitch in the system, a virus in your mind. And today, we rewrite the code. Because your identity, your thoughts, your habits, your story, it's all programmable. You were programmed by your past, your parents, your teachers, your failures, but now it's time for you to be the programmer. So here's the truth. Transformation doesn't begin when you set a goal. It begins when you bury the parts of you that refuse to evolve. Comfort zone, that's your coffin. You want growth? Then get uncomfortable. Stay uncomfortable. Let discomfort become your new addiction. And don't just change how you act, change who you are. When your identity shifts, your reality follows. You don't try to be disciplined, you become someone who is disciplined. You don't try to be confident, you step into the identity of someone who knows their value. That's how you reprogram. Through emotion, through repetition, through intensity. You wire it in so deep, your nervous system starts rejecting anything less. But hear this loud and clear. The old identity is something we all carry with us, whether we recognize it or not. It's a set of beliefs, behaviors, and patterns that shape how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. The unfortunate reality is that most people never take the time to consciously acknowledge the old identity because in many ways it feels like it's a part of who they are. It feels safe, it feels familiar, and in its own way, it feels like it protects us from the unknown. But that sense of comfort is a lie that keeps you anchored in a place of mediocrity, in a place where your true potential remains locked behind walls of your own creation. The first step in transforming your life is to recognize that the person you've been up until this point, the version of yourself that has faced setbacks, doubts, fears, and failures, is not the person who will lead you into success. The person you've been up until now has been a product of the environment you were born into, the limitations you accepted, the beliefs you inherited, and the stories you told yourself. It's a collection of old narratives that have shaped your reality, and for many, these stories are all they know. They've lived with these narratives for so long that they don't even question them anymore. They think that this is just who they are. But you are not your old identity. You are not the version of yourself that gives up when it gets hard, that avoids challenges, that stays stuck in patterns of fear and scarcity. You are not the person who plays small and seeks validation from others. That person is just a version of you that has existed because you allowed it to. And it's time to acknowledge this truth. Acknowledging your old identity means taking a hard look at who you've become up until now. It means stepping into the uncomfortable space of recognizing that your thoughts, habits, and actions have been shaped by a set of beliefs that may no longer serve you. These beliefs have kept you in the shadows, fearful of failure, resistant to change, and hesitant to take bold action. You may have told yourself that you were not good enough, not capable, or that you didn't deserve success. Maybe you believed that you had to play by society's rules and live up to other people's expectations. And maybe you've been living that way for years, decades even. And it has become so ingrained in your psyche that you've come to accept it as your truth. The truth is, you are not those beliefs. You are not your failures, your mistakes, or your shortcomings. You are not the voice inside your head that tells you that you're not worthy of success. You are not the person who is hidden behind excuses, avoiding opportunities because of fear or doubt. Those things have shaped the person you have been, but they do not define who you are. This is where real growth begins, when you face that uncomfortable truth, when you look at your old self and say, I'm done with this. You cannot change your life until you first confront the reality of who you've been, until you shine a light on the parts of yourself that have been holding you back. your self-doubt, your lack of confidence, your hesitation to take risks, none of it will change. Acknowledging your old identity requires brutal honesty. It's not about beating yourself up or blaming yourself for the past. It's about taking responsibility for the role you've played in creating the life you have now. It's about recognizing the patterns of behavior that have kept you from achieving your full potential. And it's about seeing clearly and unapologetically that if you continue to live in this way, nothing will change. The same struggles, the same obstacles, the same fears will continue to show up, and you will remain stuck in the same place. You cannot outrun your old identity. You cannot suppress it or hope it will go away. It will continue to show up in your life until you acknowledge it, understand it, and choose to leave it behind. This is not an easy process. It is messy, it is uncomfortable, and it will require you to step outside of your comfort zone in ways you never imagined. But the transformation you seek is on the other side of this acknowledgement. Once you admit that your old identity is no longer serving you, you open up the space for something new. You stop living on autopilot, following the same old patterns that have kept you small. You stop identifying with the failures, the setbacks, and the self-imposed limitations. You make room for a new version of yourself to emerge. A version that is empowered, confident, and ready to take massive action toward your goals. The process of acknowledging your old identity is the first step in reprogramming your mind for success. It is the beginning of the transformation that will allow you to break free from the chains that have held you back and step into your true power. But before you can begin this journey, you must face the truth about who you have been. Only then can you make the conscious choice to evolve into the person you were always meant to become. Radical ownership is one of the most transformative concepts you can embrace in your life. It is the understanding that everything in your world is a direct result of your choices, your actions, and your mindset. This idea demands that you take full responsibility for every aspect of your life, your successes, your failures, your mistakes, and your triumphs. It requires you to let go of the victim mentality that says you are at the mercy of external forces, that your circumstances dictate your fate. Radical ownership is about stepping into the driver's seat of your life and acknowledging that, ultimately, you are in control. So what does it mean to practice radical ownership? It means no longer looking outside of yourself for blame. When something goes wrong, you don't point fingers at the economy, your boss, your family, or your past. You don't blame other people for the way you feel or the way your life is going. Radical ownership is about taking full accountability for everything that happens in your life, regardless of the circumstances. It requires you to shift your perspective from one of helplessness to one of empowerment. It is the realization that you hold the key to changing your circumstances, and it begins with how you respond to them. One of the most powerful aspects of radical ownership is that it forces you to stop playing the victim. For many, this can be incredibly difficult. It's much easier to blame others, to justify why things are the way they are, and to let yourself off the hook. The stories we tell ourselves about why we can't succeed, whether it's because we weren't born into the right family or we didn't have the same opportunities as others, serve as comfort blankets. They shield us from facing the uncomfortable truth that we are the ones who have the power to change our lives. And when you adopt radical ownership, you stop leaning on these excuses. This doesn't mean that life will stop throwing challenges your way. On the contrary, challenges are a given. The difference is in how you face them. When you take ownership, you understand that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. You recognize that how you react to those challenges will define who you become. So instead of feeling victimized by the difficulties that come your way, you see them as lessons and catalysts for change. Every failure becomes a stepping stone towards success, because you no longer see yourself as a passive observer of life, but as an active participant in shaping your reality. Radical ownership also means taking responsibility for your own mindset. Your thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes shape the way you experience the world. If you believe that the world is against you, that things will never work out, and that you are powerless to change your situation, then that becomes your reality. But when you embrace radical ownership, you take responsibility for your thoughts and beliefs. You stop blaming your past, your circumstances, or anyone else for how you feel or how you think. Instead, you become the creator of your thoughts. You consciously choose to believe in your own ability to succeed and to see every situation through the lens of possibility, growth, and opportunity. The concept of radical ownership is also about accepting that your choices have consequences. Every decision you make, big or small, has a direct impact on your life. So many people live in a state of denial, refusing to acknowledge that their current situation is the result of their own decisions. When you adopt radical ownership, you stop passing the blame and instead take full responsibility for the outcomes of your choices. This doesn't mean you will always make perfect decisions, but it does mean that you stop making excuses for your failures. You accept that every result, positive or negative, is a reflection of your actions and choices. And with that acceptance comes empowerment. When you realize that you are the one creating the outcomes in your life, you begin to understand the immense power you have to change those outcomes. You stop waiting for someone or something to come along and save you. You take ownership of your future and your success. You recognize that no one else is responsible for your happiness, your success, or your growth. It's all on you. Radical ownership also requires a deep sense of humility. It requires you to stop pretending that you know everything and to start being open to learning, growing, and evolving. It means accepting that you don't have all the answers, but you are committed to finding them. It means being honest with yourself about where you need to improve and taking the necessary steps to do so. There is no room for arrogance in radical ownership, because it requires you to be brutally honest with yourself about your strengths, your weaknesses, and the areas where you need to grow. It requires you to embrace accountability, not only for your actions, but also for your growth and development. By taking radical ownership, you empower yourself to design your own destiny. You stop giving away your power to others, to circumstances, or to the past. You take control of your thoughts, your actions, and your future. It's not an easy path, but it's the only path that leads to true freedom, success, and fulfillment. You are the creator of your life, and radical ownership is the first step in unlocking the limitless potential within you. The death of the comfort zone is the most liberating experience you can have in your life. The comfort zone is a place where everything feels familiar, predictable, and safe. It's where you can hide from the discomfort of change and the fear of failure. It's a place where growth slows to a halt, where ambition is stifled, and where dreams die. But here's the truth you need to face. Your comfort zone is a prison, not a sanctuary. And until you make the decision to step out of it, you will never truly experience the life you're capable of living. For most people, the comfort zone is a quiet, insidious trap. At first, it seems harmless. It feels like a space of security, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. You wake up every day and follow the same routines, the same patterns, and the same habits. It feels easy, it feels effortless, but what you don't realize is that by staying inside that zone, you are slowly killing your potential. You are letting your growth stagnate. The person you are today is a result of all the decisions you've made up until now. And if you continue to stay inside the comfort zone, you will only keep getting more of the same. The comfort zone tells you that everything is okay just as it is. It convinces you that you don't need to challenge yourself, that there's no reason to push beyond the boundaries of your current reality. But that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps people stuck. It's the voice that whispers, "You've made it this far, why risk it?" It's the voice that tells you to avoid the discomfort of change, to avoid taking risks, and to avoid confronting the fear that's holding you back. But here's the brutal reality. Nothing grows inside your comfort zone. The moment you decide to leave that comfort zone, everything changes. The world becomes unfamiliar, and that is exactly what you need. Growth requires discomfort. It requires risk. It requires a willingness to step into the unknown and face whatever comes next with confidence and courage. And while it's natural to feel fear when you're stepping into the unknown, you must recognize that fear is not a signal to retreat. It's a sign that you are on the verge of something great. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at the unknown. Everything in you is screaming to stay where it's safe, to avoid the jump. But if you listen to that voice, you'll remain stuck. Stuck on the same spot you've always been. The only way to experience the view, to feel the exhilaration, and to see what lies beyond is to take that leap. And that's the death of your comfort zone. It's the moment you let go of what you've known and step into what could be. This is the moment when the old version of you, The version of you that clings to safety, certainty, and the status quo dies. It's the moment you stop making excuses, stop relying on external circumstances to determine your future, and stop waiting for things to get easier. Because here's the thing, life doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. And that strength only comes when you break free from the confines of comfort. The death of the comfort zone doesn't just happen once. It's a constant choice, a daily decision to face discomfort head-on. Each time you step out of what's familiar and take a risk, you expand your boundaries. Every time you push yourself beyond the limits of what you think is possible, you grow stronger, smarter, and more capable. But if you always choose comfort, you'll stay in the same place and your potential will be squandered. What holds people back from leaving their comfort zones is the fear of failure. People are afraid of making mistakes, of looking foolish, of experiencing setbacks. But what they fail to realize is that failure is not the enemy, it's a vital part of growth. Every great success story, every person who has achieved something extraordinary has failed countless times along the way. Failure is not the end, it's a stepping stone, a lesson that guides you closer to your goal. But you can't learn from failure if you're too afraid to take action. You can't grow if you're hiding in your comfort zone. The death of the comfort zone is a necessary rite of passage for anyone who wants to achieve greatness. If you want to build something meaningful, if you want to live a life that is bold and full of purpose, you must be willing to step into the unknown. You must be willing to risk failure, risk judgment, and risk discomfort. Only then will you discover the extraordinary potential that lies just beyond your comfort zone. But this is where the transformation happens. This is where the magic is. It's in the moments when you push past the fear, when you take the leap, and when you finally realize that the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. The comfort zone is not a safe place. It's a trap. The moment you choose to step beyond it, you unlock the door to limitless possibility. You unlock the door to the person you were always meant to become. Reprogramming through new standards is one of the most powerful ways to transform your life and achieve lasting success. The standards you set for yourself dictate the quality of your life. They shape your habits, your actions, and ultimately your results. The problem is that most people don't realize how deeply their standards control their destiny. They go through life with default standards that are shaped by their environment, past experiences, and societal conditioning. But these standards are rarely enough to create extraordinary results. To truly change your life, you must consciously raise your standards to a new level, one that aligns with your highest vision of who you are and what you're capable of achieving. When you think about standards, think of them as the rules you live by. They define what's acceptable for you, what you will tolerate, and what you will never settle for. Your standards are the invisible boundaries that govern your behavior, and the truth is that you'll never outperform them. If you have low standards, your actions will be inconsistent, lack discipline, and you'll settle for mediocrity. But when you raise your standards, when you demand more from yourself, everything changes. You no longer tolerate excuses, delays, or compromises. You begin to act in alignment with the new expectations you've set for yourself. And as a result, your life begins to reflect those higher standards. Raising your standards starts with taking a deep look at the areas of your life that are not where you want them to be. Whether it's your health, your finances, your relationships, or your career, the results you're getting are simply a reflection of the standards you've been holding. If you've been struggling with your health, for example, it's because your standard for how you treat your body has been set too low. If you've been stuck in a job you don't love or haven't achieved the financial success you desire, it's because your standard for success in those areas have been below your potential. The moment you recognize this, the power to change becomes clear. The key to reprogramming your life is setting higher standards in all areas of your life, and doing so with absolute clarity and commitment. But it's not just about saying, "I want more," or "I deserve better." It's about creating a new identity that aligns with the standards you've set. You must become the kind of person who operates at the level of excellence you desire. If you want to achieve more, you must first decide who you need to become in order to reach that level. What does the person who is financially free, healthy, and successful look like? How do they think, feel, and act? This is the person you must reprogram yourself to be. Once you have a clear picture of who you want to become, the next step is to set new standards and commit to them without hesitation. It's about making a decision that you will no longer accept anything less than your best. You will no longer settle for being average or ordinary. You will no longer allow laziness, procrastination, or self-doubt to dictate your behavior. Raising your standards is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that you value your potential and you're no longer willing to waste time living below it. The process of reprogramming through new standards involves making daily decisions to act in alignment with the person you are becoming. It's about consistently choosing discipline over comfort, growth over stagnation, and action over hesitation. This doesn't mean you'll never fail or encounter setbacks, but it does mean you will not tolerate excuses. You will use every challenge as an opportunity to reinforce your new standards, to prove to yourself that you are capable of achieving the extraordinary. The more you act in accordance with your new standards, the more they become ingrained in your identity. And eventually, they will become automatic. You will no longer have to try to live at a higher standard. You'll simply be that person. One of the most powerful aspects of reprogramming through new standards is that it automatically shifts the way you view your limitations. When your standards are low, you see obstacles as insurmountable and problems as threats. But when you raise your standards, your perspective shifts. You begin to see challenges as temporary roadblocks that are easily overcome. You stop identifying with the limitations that once held you back and start operating from a place of resourcefulness, determination, and resilience. You realize that setbacks are not failures, but part of the process of growth. As your standards rise, so does your ability to handle life's challenges with grace and confidence. Another key element of reprogramming through new standards is the importance of consistency. It's not enough to set high standards for yourself once and expect everything to change overnight. Transformation happens through the consistent application of those standards every single day. It's in the small, seemingly insignificant decisions you make daily that will eventually lead to monumental results. Every time you choose to act in alignment with your higher standards, you are reinforcing that new identity. Every time you take action, even when it feels uncomfortable or difficult, you are strengthening your commitment to becoming the person you aspire to be. As you continue to raise your standards, you will notice that the world around you begins to shift. Your relationships, career, health, and finances will all begin to reflect the new level of excellence you've set for yourself. But more importantly, you will begin to see yourself in a new light. You will begin to recognize your own worth and potential. The person you were yesterday will no longer be the person you are today. You will have reprogrammed your mind to expect more, to demand more, and to never settle for anything less than your best. And when that happens, everything in your life will begin to align with your new higher standards. Erosion is the engine that drives every action, decision, and outcome in your life. It's the fuel behind your thoughts, your behaviors, and your results. Many people believe that logic, reason, and intellect are what propel them forward, but the truth is that emotions have a far more significant impact on your life than you may realize. Emotion is not just a byproduct of our experiences, it is the primary force that determines how we engage with the world, how we respond to challenges, and how we move toward our desires and goals. Without emotion, there is no motivation, no drive, no passion. Without emotion, we simply exist, moving through life without purpose or direction. Think about the last time you felt a surge of excitement, joy, or passion about something. Maybe it was a new project, a personal goal, or a dream you've been working toward. That emotion, that fire within you, was the force that pushed you to take action, to move forward with determination and energy. On the flip side, think about the times when you felt discouraged, frustrated, or hopeless. In those moments, your emotions may have drained you of the energy you needed to move forward. Your motivation faltered, and you may have found yourself stuck, unable to take the next step. This is the power of emotion. It has the ability to propel you toward your dreams or hold you back from achieving them, depending on how you manage it. The key to unlocking your true potential is learning how to harness the power of your emotions. Emotions are not just random feelings. They are signals, messages from within that are trying to tell you something about yourself, about your desires, and about your circumstances. Every emotion you experience serves a purpose, whether it's to guide you, to alert you, or to inspire you. Positive emotions like joy, excitement, and gratitude can fuel your actions and propel you towards success. But negative emotions like fear, doubt, and frustration can either work against you or become powerful catalysts for growth if you choose to use them wisely. Fear, for example, is often seen as a negative emotion that holds people back from pursuing their goals. But fear, in its purest form, is simply a signal that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and facing something new. It's a sign that you are growing, that you are stretching yourself beyond your limits. Fear can either paralyze you or it can be the very thing that propels you forward into action. When you learn to channel the energy of fear into motivation, you can overcome even the most challenging obstacles. Instead of letting fear control you, you can use it as fuel to power through the difficult moments and keep pushing toward your goals. The same is true for frustration. Frustration often arises when you feel stuck or when things aren't going according to plan, but frustration can be a powerful motivator if you allow it to be. Instead of letting it drain your energy, use it as a signal to reassess your approach. Let frustration fuel your desire for change, for improvement, and for progress. When you understand that your emotions are guiding you toward growth, you begin to see every emotion, positive or negative, as an opportunity to make a shift, to learn, and to move forward with greater clarity and purpose. The most successful people in the world are not immune to difficult emotions. Rather, they have mastered the ability to use their emotions to their advantage. They recognize that emotion is not something to be avoided or suppressed, but something to be embraced and directed toward their highest goals. They understand that emotion is the engine of their success, and they use it to propel them forward even in the face of adversity. But to truly harness the power of emotion, you must first learn how to control it. Emotions can be overwhelming if you let them dictate your actions without awareness. When you feel anger, frustration, or fear, it's easy to act impulsively without considering the long-term consequences of your actions. But when you learn to become aware of your emotions, to understand their source and their purpose, you gain the power to direct them in a way that serves you. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions in a way that aligns with your values and your goals. It's about being able to take a step back in the heat of the moment, acknowledge the emotion, and then choose how you want to respond rather than reacting impulsively. When you learn to master your emotions, you unlock the full potential of your energy. Emotion is not just something that happens to you, it is something you can control and direct. You can choose to use emotion as fuel to drive your actions, to push you beyond your limits, and to help you achieve extraordinary results. The more you become aware of your emotions and the more you learn to channel them in a productive way, the more power you gain over your life. You become the driver of your own destiny, using emotion as the engine that propels you forward with unstoppable momentum. To reprogram your mind for success, you must learn to embrace emotion as a powerful tool. Instead of avoiding or suppressing your feelings, you must learn to use them as a source of strength. Whether it's joy, excitement, fear, or frustration, every emotion has the potential to guide you, motivate you, and propel you toward your highest aspirations. The key is to recognize the power of emotion and to learn how to harness it in a way that moves you closer to the life you want to create. When you do this, you will unlock the energy, the drive, and the passion that will fuel your success and help you overcome any challenge that stands in your way. Creating identity-based habits is one of the most profound and lasting ways to change your life. Too often, people approach change by focusing on what they want to achieve, the goals they want to hit, or the results they want to see. But goals alone are not enough. Achieving success is not just about setting objectives or making temporary changes. It's about becoming the person who can sustain those changes over the long term. The key to creating lasting transformation in your life is shifting your focus from outcome-based habits to identity-based habits. When you focus on outcome-based habits, you are essentially working toward external goals that are often disconnected from who you truly are. For example, you might set a goal to lose 20 pounds or to make a certain amount of money. These goals are measurable, but they are also limited. Once you reach the outcome, the drive often fades, and so does the behavior. You may celebrate the achievement, but the sense of accomplishment is fleeting, and your motivation to keep up the effort diminishes. The reason for this is simple. Goals don't change who you are at your core, and the goals achieved, the identity of the person who achieved it hasn't been fully developed, and therefore you have little reason to maintain the new behaviors that led to the success. This is where identity-based habits come in. Rather than focusing on a specific outcome, identity-based habits are built on the foundation of who you want to become. Instead of focusing solely on what you want to accomplish, you focus on the type of person you want to be. If you want to become a healthier person, instead of simply setting a goal to lose weight or exercise more, you start by adopting the identity of someone who values their health and well-being. You become the person who sees fitness as part of your lifestyle, not as a temporary effort to reach a goal. When you identify as someone who takes care of their body, the actions that align with that identity, like eating healthy and working out, become automatic. The key to lasting success is shifting from a focus on the results to a focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally makes those results happen. The power of identity-based habits lies in the way they shape your self-picture. Our actions are driven by who we believe we are. If you see yourself as an unhealthy person, someone who struggles with fitness or eating right, then you will continue to make choices that reinforce that belief. But when you adopt the identity of a person who is healthy, fit, and committed to their well-being, your behaviors will naturally align with that identity. Your habits will no longer feel like a chore. They will become part of who you are. The more you identify with this new version of yourself, the more you reinforce those behaviors, and the more they become ingrained in your daily life. To create identity-based habits, you first have to identify the person you want to become. Ask yourself, what type of person would achieve the goals I want to achieve? What would they think? What would they do? This is the foundation of your new identity. Instead of thinking, I want to lose weight, think, I am the type of person who takes care of my body, who makes health a priority. The moment you shift your identity, your actions will begin to reflect that change. It's not about simply achieving a specific result, it's about becoming the kind of person who naturally exhibits the behaviors that lead to that result. Next, start small and be consistent. The power of identity-based habits is in their consistency. It's not about making huge changes overnight, but about making small, sustainable shifts that compound over time. The more you repeat the actions that align with your new identity, the stronger that identity becomes. Even if the changes seem small or insignificant at first, they are building the foundation for a new self-picture. The key is to be consistent, even when it feels like progress is slow. Every small action you take in alignment with your new identity strengthens that identity and reinforces the habit you're creating. One of the most important aspects of identity-based habits is self-compassion. The process of changing your identity is not about perfection, it's about progress. There will be setbacks, and there will be days when you don't fully align with your new identity. But instead of beating yourself up or thinking that you failed, remind yourself that identity is a journey. Embrace the growth that happens when you take imperfect action. Understand that slipping up or making mistakes is simply part of the process. What matters most is getting back on track and continuing to take action that aligns with your new identity. Another important aspect of creating identity-based habits is being patient with yourself. Identity transformation takes time. It's not a quick fix, and it's not something that happens overnight. But with persistence and dedication, your new identity will become second nature. You'll stop thinking about the specific behaviors you need to adopt because they'll be ingrained in your daily routine. You won't have to try to be healthy, successful, or productive. You'll simply be those things because that's who you've become. To reinforce your new identity, it's also crucial to surround yourself with people who share similar values and goals. The people you spend time with have a significant impact on your beliefs, behaviors, and identity. If you want to become the kind of person who excels in a particular area, surround yourself with others who are already living that way. Their habits, mindset, and energy will influence your own actions, helping you strengthen your new identity and stay committed to the habits that align with it. Ultimately, creating identity-based habits is about more than just achieving goals. It's about becoming the person who can sustain those achievements and continue to grow in the process. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the results will follow naturally. The more you shape your identity around the person you want to be, the more your habits will reflect that transformation, leading to lasting success and fulfillment. The journey towards success, transformation, and fulfillment begins with understanding that it's not just about what you want to achieve, but who you need to become. Every aspect of your life, your health, wealth, relationships, career, and happiness is shaped by the identity you carry and the habits you cultivate. The most profound and lasting change doesn't come from simply setting goals or focusing on external results. It comes from within through a conscious and deliberate reprogramming of your mind, emotions, and actions to align with the identity of the person you want to be. As you embark on this journey, it's crucial to acknowledge that the old identity, with its limitations, fears, and self-doubt, must die for the new, empowered version of you to emerge. You must kill your old self, the version of you that played it safe, avoided discomfort, and adhered to the status quo. But you cannot simply discard the old identity without replacing it with something greater. You need to reprogram your mind to adopt new standards, higher ones that challenge your current limitations and push you toward your highest potential. These new standards must become a reflection of the person you want to become. Someone who operates at a level of excellence that becomes automatic in every aspect of their life. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires radical ownership, a deep and unwavering commitment to take responsibility for every part of your life, your successes, your failures, and everything in between. You cannot afford to pass the blame, make excuses, or hope for a better future. You are the creator of your destiny, and only by taking full ownership of your actions, thoughts, and decisions will you truly begin to move forward. And then comes the death of the comfort zone. The comfort zone is a place of stagnation, where dreams are suppressed and growth is stunted. To unlock your potential, you must step outside of that zone, embracing the discomfort and uncertainty that come with growth. The unfamiliar, though intimidating, is where the magic happens. Every time you push past your fears and discomforts, you are breaking through a barrier that holds you back from the life you deserve. As you reprogram your mind for success, you will need to understand that emotion is the engine that drives every action and result. Emotions are not just reactions to circumstances. They are powerful forces that propel you into action or hold you back. By learning how to harness and direct your emotions, you can use them to fuel your journey, push you through challenges, and inspire you to take bold steps toward your goals. Whether it's fear, excitement, or frustration, your emotions have the potential to be powerful allies in your pursuit of success. Ultimately, the key to lasting change lies in creating identity-based habits. These habits are not merely about achieving results. They are about becoming the person who can naturally sustain success. When you identify as someone who is healthy, productive, and successful, your actions will follow suit, and the results will come effortlessly. Creating identity-based habits is about shifting your mindset from, "I want to achieve this," to, "I am the kind of person who does this." This subtle yet profound shift in perspective will not only help you accomplish your goals, but will ensure that the results are sustainable and aligned with the person you want to become. As you step into this new version of yourself, remember that the path to transformation is not linear. There will be setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt. But it's in those moments that your true strength is revealed. Keep moving forward with confidence and determination. Surround yourself with those who inspire you, challenge you, and hold you to a higher standard. And above all, trust in the process. With every decision you make to live in alignment with your new identity, you are building the foundation for a life that is extraordinary, fulfilling, and full of limitless potential. The future is not something that happens to you, it is something you create. By committing to become the person who aligns with your highest standards, you are taking ownership of your destiny and unlocking the power to create the life you truly desire. The journey is long, but the rewards are boundless. It starts with a decision to kill the old self, to reprogram your mind, and to step into the life that awaits you. The only question now is, are you ready to embrace the person you were always meant to be?